Okay, welcome back everybody. We are going to be coding our crew page today. So in the last couple of videos, we made copies of each of the pages based off of our index.html page, and we coded our service page, which I'm going to pull up real quick. And the service page was based off of the index page, so they had a very, very similar layout. Now, one of the things that I didn't bring up last time, and I brought it up in the live session, is that you need to change the titles in the pages. So if you have not done that at this point, which is part of the week 1 assessment, please make sure that you have done that. So for the services page, I need to change the title to Lawn Care Landscaping Services. I'm going to copy that. And you can either change it in the source code. Up at the top, it's line 5, or in the properties under document title, you can change it right in there and just paste it in. And you can see that it's changed in both places. So then you would just save it and close it out. I'm going to do the same thing for the gallery page, which we've already coded. So that's the lawn care landscaping gallery. And again, I can code it, I can fix the code in the, or fix it in the code, which this has a bit more code because of that, all the extra CSS we put in. So it's line 7 here. Or again, you can change it right down in the property. And just make sure it changes and hit save. And then for the page that we are working on today, the Meet the Lawn Care Landscaping Crew, I'm going to do that one last because we're just going to stay on that page, but we'll grab the contact page, which is Contact Lawn Care Landscaping. I'm going to copy it and open up the contact page, which will still look like the index page at this point. I'll just make that change and save. And then we'll do the crew page, and then we can stay on the crew page because that is going to be the page that we are coding today. So this one should say Meet the Lawn Care Landscaping Crew. And save. All right, awesome. So at this point, if we go into live view, you can see that it still looks like our index page because we haven't done anything. And let's pull up the wireframe for that page. And go over, whoops, to my lawn care site and pull up my wireframe for the crew page. And I can see I have 4 columns here. And there are 2 things in column 1, 1 thing in column 2, 1 thing in column 3, and 1 thing in column 4. And I have this banner that goes across the top that says Meet the Crew. So I can tell looking at my homepage that I'm going to lose this big area that I've created here. And I can pick one of these to probably be my banner. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to lose these other images. But if, let's preview this. Might be easier to see if we look at this full screen. So I still want to follow this 4-column layout that's here. So there's a couple of different ways that I can do this. And that 4-column layout is down in this last row, which is column medium 1/2, column large 1/4. So I know that I'm going to need to follow the rules for this certain div. So what I can do is I can leave this div row and just delete out the things that are inside of it. You know, like these images that are inside of it, because we're going to be putting in content rather than images. Then what I can do is I can change this row I'm probably gonna base it off of the inspiration gallery, the tan version. And that is going to say, oops, meet the crew. And I'm gonna need to run it all the way across. There we go. And I can lose this div altogether because it has one big main image, and I'm not doing that right now. So let's take a look also at the doc file so I can see what my headline should look like. It's gonna take a moment to optimize my font performance. So let's see, meet the crew page. So I have meet the crew is an H1 headline, and then I have meet Dave the Older, that's an H2 headline. Then I have some paragraph text, another H2 headline, more paragraph text, another H2 headline, then an H3 headline, and then I have this list here. So I need to think of how I need to deal with that list. And you can basically see the different sections. So maybe to make it easier, I'm just gonna kind of put this all on one page. And look at it that way. That might be just a little bit easier to see what's going on if it's on one page. All right, so first things first, let's take a look at our site again and see how far we've gotten with our coding. So we have the services page is done, the gallery page is done, and I can see that I've already kind of made a banner that goes the full width of my page. So even though my gallery page looks a little bit different because of that extra CSS with our slideshow, I know that I can go in and just see what I named this banner and use the same CSS for it. So I can even just copy the HTML right over. So that might be the easiest thing for me to do to start off with. And then I'll go back over to the crew page so we can watch our changes as we are making them. So I'm in my DOM panel. I'm gonna close up my header so that way I don't accidentally select anything in it, and I'm gonna keep my footer closed as well. And I just want my main area open because that is where I'm focusing. So let me select my first div, and you can double check in your live area based on the bounding box what it's selected. And we should probably be in split view so we can kind of see what's going on with the code while we're doing this. So with that first div selected, which is the one that selects my crazy guy on the lawnmower and all of that information, I'm just gonna hit delete and get rid of it. Then what I wanna do is I'm gonna open up that gallery page, and I'm gonna find my info box inspiration, or that div column full, and I'm gonna close up that whole thing, the div column full, and I'm going to copy it because I want to copy it into my crew page. And in this div row, I'm going to delete out both of these because I don't need them. And I'm going to paste as a child because I want to put it inside that row. So there we go. And it still says inspiration gallery. So I'm going to need to change out that H1 headline. So let me navigate over to my Microsoft Word document because, again, no need to retype anything. Just copy and paste your text. You'll find that that way you don't have any spelling errors. So I'm going to copy that and double click till I get that orange box, or down here in the code where it says H1 class inspiration, I can copy it in there as well and meet the crew. So there we go. So that's taken care of. And I can close up that row. That's done. That part is done. So we can cross that off the list, and we can literally cross it off the list in our Word file. So strike that out. Next, I need to focus on these columns. So like I said, I need to take out the images that are already in the columns, but I need to retain the actual divs that are in there. And I'm going to have to add in some, some new code and some new divs inside of the divs, because remember, I'm going to need like a container that holds my image and a container that holds my text inside of my other container. So I need to nest, one Tupperware container inside of another at this point. So if we go back to that video that I made of the Tupperware containers. So first things first, so let's just remove these images that are in there. Get rid of them. So we just have the divs all on their own. And make sure you don't delete the div. You're just deleting the image. All right. So in my first one, which is right here, and notice I am in the 768 tablet view. So this is going to show up as 2 columns in my Dreamweaver. It's the equivalent of hitting this media query. So if you want to make sure that what's happening is correct, you can either, close up your browser to resemble the same size in Dreamweaver, but I like to leave it open so that way I can make sure in Dreamweaver it's doing the right thing at that media query, and in Chrome, it's showing it correctly in the browser for the 1024 media query. So that way I kind of have a double view of what is going on. And you could probably even get a little bit crazier. Let's see if this will work. By previewing it in Firefox, save changes, and closing this one up to your mobile version. So you've got mobile version in Firefox, you've got tablet version in Dreamweaver, and you have desktop version in Chrome. If you want to get totally crazy, I mean, you could even, open up a third browser of Safari and keep the tablet version open in Safari. I have done this in the past, but you don't want to use up too much of your bandwidth, but that is really something that you can do, or you can just keep closing it and opening it. I just wanted to kind of show you what you guys could do. I'm going to close out Firefox because I'm also recording on Zoom. So the last thing I need is to probably use up all of my bandwidth, between my browsers while also running Zoom, while also running Dreamweaver. And I did restart my Dreamweaver before we started today. So with my first one selected, I know that that is my far left column. I am going to add in an image first. So I want to insert a child of an image, and that should pop open my images folder. If for some reason, let me escape out of this. If for some reason it doesn't pop open your images folder, with image selected here, go to your properties, and under source, you can browse for file, and that will pop that open. So I just want to let you know. And for this, I need to grab that image of the owner first. So I'm going to grab crew owner JPEG. And in my alt tag, I'm going to name it crew owner. There we go. And he is in there. Then what I want to do is I want to make a new div underneath this, which will contain this text. So I'm going to insert after a div, and I need to give this div a name because I'm going to have to do specific CSS properties on just these divs on just this page, because I don't want to change any of the CSS properties of this div, because it will change it on my home page and it will change it on my services page, because both of them are using this class. So I want to make sure that I give this specific div a class of its own just on the crew page. And I'm going to name it dot crew box, and I'm putting dashes tan. So dot crew dash box dash tan, and I'll hit enter. And it's going to tell me content for new div tag goes here. I want to delete that out right away so I don't forget to do that. One of those things that it always drives me a little bit nuts that it does that. Especially when you create a div. It's really helpful when you're creating a headline or creating a paragraph box because you can see where it is. But for the div, it's like I really don't want to just put random text in a div. It should really be nested in either a paragraph or a headline tag. All right, so inside of this div, I am going to put in the items that are in this box right here. So I need to go back over into, and here's my guy, into my Microsoft Word document, and I see that I have an H2 tag for Meet Dave the Owner. So I'm gonna just copy that and go back over into Dreamweaver, and I'm going to insert a child into that div, and it needs to be an H2 tag, and where it says this is the layout, the content for layout H2, then double click, and I'll paste in Meet Dave the Owner. There we go. And I can see also that I'm going to need a paragraph tag. And it looks as though there are 2 paragraphs here, but it's only showing 1 paragraph tag. I'm going to see what it looks like with a break first, but then I might need to do 2 paragraphs. But we'll look at it and see, how it looks. So let me copy this. And we're going to insert after because they're both going to be inside the div, but I don't want that paragraph to be a child of my headline. So I'm inserting after, and I'll name it P. And I also want to give the text on this page a specific name as well so I can target it if I need to do any changes to the paragraph text on just this page. So I'm going to name it dot, which is a class, crew text. Naming pretty much makes sense. Double click. I'll paste in that. Let's see where that break is. After design it, there should be a break that says call for a free estimate. So we're going to need to change that in the code. I'll hit enter manually just so I can see. Break, call for a free estimate. And it seems like the phone number should be on its own line. So again, I'm going to manually enter and put in a break. And I like to manually enter just so that way I can see it in the code as well. It makes it easier for me to see things. And I'm going to leave it like that for right now. I might end up changing my mind, but for right now, I am going to just leave it like that. All right. So I've got my text into my first column. So I'm going to close that column up and I'll move on to the next column. It's just a little bit easier if you keep things kind of closed up that you're not using. So that way you're not scrolling and scrolling and scrolling trying to find things. Just kind of it'll make your life a little bit easier. And I need a similar div though. Crew box tan with an H2 tag and some paragraph text in my next div, because let's look. I have an H2 headline and I have two different paragraphs in here as well. So I should probably, I can manually, copy or type in that code. But what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to copy, close this back up, select this one, and I want to, right click and do paste as a child. And I have the H2 tag is already there, and then the paragraph tag with the name is already there. So all I need to do now is change out the copy. So I'm going to change let me close this up or strike that out because I know I'm done. So I'm going to change the headline to About Us, which is over here. And the first paragraph I'm going to grab, and I'm just going to grab just the first paragraph and put it in before that break. And make sure you're in the right one. Here's the first one. Here's the second one. You know, make sure you can see it selected. And paste that in. And I'll grab the second paragraph, copy. And I'm going to paste right through to the P because I don't need that second break. So I'm grabbing both of these lines and just pasting that in. And I can see I'm probably going to need some extra spacing. But again, I will come back and kind of deal with that. I just want to, at this point, I really just want to get all of my copy into my page, and I'll kind of deal with the formatting afterwards. So for the next one, I'm going to need, again, this div crew box tan. So let's look. That's going to go into the fourth box. In this box, I need just an image. So I'm just going to copy the crew box tan into the fourth box because I already have it open. So let me just copy it real quick. I'm going to select that fourth div right here. And I'm going to paste as a child. And I'll just close it up and deal with that afterwards. And then I'm going to go back to my third div. And I want to insert a child in here. And I need to insert an image. And it's the crew team image. I need to give it an alt tag, so I'm going to name it crew team. And my last box, I already have the info in there. So I am going to go back into Word. And I have an H2 headline and I have an H3 headline. So I'm going to copy the H2 headline first, the text. Paste that in. Then what I want to do is I'm going to insert after this an H3 headline. And where it says this is the content, I'm going to say from top going clockwise. Let me copy that. Top going clockwise. And it did a lot of space because my original H3 tag that I have here has a ton of space after it. So I am going to need to, you know, fix this basically. So I'm going to need to name this H3 crew H3 and put in a CSS selector for crew H3. And I have a paragraph tag here, but let's look at this. This looks like a list. So I can either do it as a paragraph with a whole bunch of breaks, or I could do it as an unordered list and then take those bullet points off. So for me, it makes more sense to do this as an unordered list. So that's going to be the way I do that. So I'm just going to go in and I'm just going to delete that paragraph tag right there. And I'm going to insert after an unordered list. And it will put in that first bullet point for me. And I'm going to grab Beth Office Manager, paste her in, and hit enter. Then I will grab the rest of them, which is kind of going to do some weird things. So I'm going to hit enter after scheduler, which moves Tom to his own bullet point. Enter after arborist, which moves Tammy down. Enter after arborist again, which moves Bill down. Then I'm going to hit enter before Lisa, which moves her down. Enter before Mark, which moves him down, and enter before Guy. So you can see I have all my list items right there. And I'm going to need to, again, add some specific CSS to just the list on this page. So I want to name this list with a class. So there we go, dot, and I'm going to call it crew unordered list. So crew UL. Cruel is what it looks like. All right, so I have all of my copy in now on this page. So this is a good point to, save everything before I start adding in those CSS selectors. So I got my HTML in there pretty quick. Let's take a look at what it looks like. Here we go. So everything is where it belongs. Let's close it up to this. It doesn't look great. I'm going to have to deal with this. And here, everything is at least where it belongs. So, it doesn't look pretty yet, but at least the copy is in there exactly where it needs to be. So let's move ahead to our CSS. And what I'm going to do actually before we do that, I'm going to go into code view. And I am going to just kind of put up on the screen the code that I added for the main. So I'll leave this up for a second, and you guys can, take a screenshot if you need to follow along. And your next screenshot. So that way, if you have to go in and double check your HTML code to make sure it matches up with mine, you can do that. All right, and we'll go back into split view. And that actually gave me a chance to blow my nose, so hopefully you can hear me a little bit better. All right, so let's go over to our style sheet. So make sure you're on styles.css, and we're gonna go into the CSS designer. And we need to start adding in some CSS for this. And there's one thing I want to double check. Okay. When I was doing this earlier, my footer was starting to come up into my crew page. It was only happening on my crew page. So I'm going to keep an eye on my footer. And if it does start to creep up, I do have a selector to add to it. But I'm not sure if I just mistyped when I was doing this the first time. So I'm just trying to, so if you see me going back to double check that footer, that's the reason why, is I had fixed it in my practice files, because I always work in practice files too before I show you guys the actual way. I don't like to kind of code and guess on the fly. I don't want to confuse you. So sometimes things happen in my practice files that don't end up happening when I am coding. So sometimes I have to double check, but I just want to make sure that that footer on this page stays down where it belongs, because it was not behaving for me when I was coding before, but I also hadn't restarted my computer in a bit. So hopefully I took care of it. All right. In your style sheet, under global, what I want you to do is you can select the image tag. We're going to add a selector under the image tag, and we are going to name it .crew, which, wait a minute, hold on one second. Whoa, don't do what I did. I just typed in some random thing. I don't even think I have anything named crew. Hold on one second. Nope, I renamed that. I'm sorry. Don't listen to that. I renamed that altogether and took it out of my code, and I forgot to take it off of my list. All right, global, under image, one more time. Add in a style. Let me see where, there we are. A selector, and we're going to name it .crew text. All right. And you can probably guess what we are going to be dealing with here. We're going to be dealing with all of the text that was in those boxes that we created. So I want the text to be text aligned left. I want the font size to be medium. And I want the font weight to be 200, which is a little bit lighter than we had here. I kind of like the look of that a little bit more. Next, I'm going to make another selector. I'm going to name it Crew UL for that unordered list, which is now down here. And I want the font weight again to be 200 so it matches. I want my list style type to be none. Get rid of those bullet points. And I want the text aligned left. There we go. And I want my line height, so that's my spacing in between my lists. I need that to be a little bit bigger. If we look at that page, it's really spaced out, so I want to add some spacing. So I'm going to change my line height to percentage. It's going to go to 0, which is a big mess. And I'm going to change it to 200%, and I'll just kind of monitor that to make sure it looks good. There we go. And next I need to deal with this, this H3. So I'm going to make a selector for Crew H3. And I want my font size to be 22 pixels. And, oh, whoops, I need to rename that selector. I'm sorry. I need to call it H3 space Crew H3. There we go. 22 pixels, and the margin on the bottom, I want it to be, let's say, 10. It's not bringing it up. Why are you not bringing it up? I'm probably doing this in the wrong order. Nope. Yeah, I was doing it in the wrong order. Remove that. And I don't believe I am using an H3 on any other page. Hold on. Let's just see if I can just make my life easier and edit that original H3. I think that this is the only page that has, nope, there's one on the service page. Is that an H3? Let me take off the strikeout. That is an H3. Although I'm not gonna lie, I need so much spacing in that box, I might just leave it. Yeah, I'm just gonna leave that for now. We'll deal with that, after. Let me open up my service page and see what that H3 even looks like. Where are you? All right, so there is a lot of spacing there. Okay, that makes sense. Don't save, because I don't even know what I just did to you. Close out the gallery. Don't save that either. Sometimes if you open things up and you're not quite sure what you do, and it's like, do you want to save? You're like, no, because I shouldn't have done anything when I was opening that up. All right, so I'm just going to leave this as this right now. That's completely fine. And let me do a file, save all related files. And again, let's double check what it looks like. And it's given me some spacing, so that's actually pretty good that this happened. And I should probably make the text a little bit more spacing in the About Us and in this text box as well. So under crew text, which I just made that. There we go. Let's change the line height to, again, percentage. Let's change it to 150. Whoops. And take a look and see what that looks like. There, that looks a little bit better, a little bit more spaced out. And we'll save. So I'll make a note, kind of making changes on the fly here, which is fine. Line height, 150%. All right. And so far my footer's behaving, so we'll just leave that the way it is. All right, so in your global, I want you to scroll down until you get to that info box tan that I know is already in there, because we're going to base the backgrounds of the crew box tan off of info box tan. So let's select info box tan, and you can right click and go to code. Nope, info box, come on. Or scroll down if your computer doesn't want to play nice. Info box tan, where are you? Info box dark. Info box here. There we go. Okay. So I am going to copy this, hit enter, and paste. And I'm going to rename it crew box tan. And now I have a nice tan background color. But I'm going to have to add in, I'm probably going to have to change some of the things going on in here. So let's go to that new selector, crew box tan, and let's show set so we can see what's going on. So I have the background colors the right color. My text is the right color. My padding, I want to change the padding on on the bottom from 60 to 30. There we go. But I'm going to leave it at 20 on the left and the right. And I have text align center, but I definitely want it left, text align left in those boxes. And that looks good. But, and here's a big but, look at what's going on with this box. It's not moving itself up to play nice in my media query for my 768 media query, which is right here. It's staying down at the bottom. So I need to do something in the CSS to kind of just target just this box to get it to play along. So let's go into the source code. Again, let's save everything because we've done a lot of stuff. Save all related files. You know, if you don't see me saving, definitely save. Because you want to make sure that, you know, your computer best. I know right around when mine might be taxed out and I should probably hit the save button, but you probably know on your computer when it's best to save. So definitely save and save often. So let me grab the fourth div box, and where it's named crew box tan right there, I'm going to give it a different name. I'm going to give it a dot or a dash list at the end. So it's going to be crew box tan list. I'll just hit enter, and it's going to remove the CSS that I just created, which is fine. So I'm going to select again crew box tan that I just made, and I'm going to go to code, and I'm going to copy it because I'm going to base my code off of that crew box tan, just kind of like I based the code off of the info box tan before. And in the code, I'm just going to hit dash and rename it crew box tan list. So what I need to do is I need to add a couple of selectors to this to get it to play nice on my page. So in the crew box tan list selector, I'm going to go back over to the properties panel. And if you had checked show set, uncheck that because we need to actually add in a couple of more properties. And I want you to scroll down till you get to position, and we're going to change it to relative. And then the top, we're going to have you change it to pixels and 0 pixels and hit enter. And there's not going to be much that happens here because I need to do this first before I tell it to do something in my 768 media query, which will move it up. So right here, it's in my 768 media query, but over on this page, it's in my 1024 media query and also in my global, which is my mobile media query. So I want to make sure that I'm kind of working in order here. So next I'm going to go down to my 768 media query, and I want to double check one thing. Column medium full, column medium half, column large. Look on my, let me scroll down over here. It might be a little bit easier. All right, and I need to make one for column large 1/4 and change my width to 25%. So I'm going to, oh, whoops, I'm sorry. Not in this one. I'm looking at the wrong thing. I'm sorry. Don't do anything here in your columns. They're fine. We're just dealing with the crew box tan in this one. So what I want to do, and this is going to be a little bit confusing, is I am going to go back to my crew box tan in my global, the crew box tan list. I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to scroll down to my 768 media query. It's just easier for me to do this than to try to put in all of the same things, except for like a couple of things in my 768 media query. And I'll scroll down to probably like after, you can do it after column. So in between these two brackets, hit enter and hit paste. You can also move it over if you want, or you can leave it tabbed over. It's really up to you. I like to make everything look nice and pretty. And what you want to do is, most of this is going to stay the same. However, under top, which is under position, where it was at 0 before, we're going to set it to -500. And see, that is going to move that up. And actually, maybe we can, let's try 505, 510, 515. Ooh, so close, 516, 520. Ooh, 520, all right, -520 it is. We're gonna move it up there. And we'll double check it to make sure it still looks right in this media query. And close. Oh, I have to save it. File. Save all related files. And there it is. So they're lined up right on the bottom. My footer's still down at the bottom. And these are lined up at the top. And that looks good. And I could even add, we'll go back in after, I'll see how we're doing. I could even add a, oh, I knew that was gonna happen, come on. Oh, that's because I haven't fixed it in the 1024. Never mind. We're good. We are good right now. We're going to deal with the 1024 media query. We need to add in some other code again. So go to your code in your 768 media query for that crew box tan list. We're gonna copy it and we're gonna scroll down to our 1024 media query. And right down at the bottom again, between the two last brackets where there's that space, we are going to hit enter. Whoops. Make sure you're after the bracket. Hit enter and paste that in again. And for this one, we're going to set the top to 0 and hit save. Let's go, and that moves that back down. There we go. All right. So the top needs to be set to 0 in the global in the 1024, but we needed to set it to that negative 520 in the 768 to get it to match up. So everything's saved. Let's try it one more time. Make sure it still responds. It does. And make sure it looks good at this one. Perfect. Perfect. Now, you could, and I'm not going to show you this because it's really complex and I'm not going to be that crazy about making sure that your boxes are the same height. It's one of those things where there's a lot of CSS code that you can put in to get them to be the same height, or you can set it up in a table. There's a couple of different options for getting your divs to be the same height. If you want to take it upon yourself to look up how to do that code, I say have at it. That's great. For everyone else who is, feeling a little bit concerned about how much coding we've already been doing in this course and the amount of pages that need to be done this week, I will not take off points if you submit it like this and your boxes are not the same height. I just want to see that you have 4 columns and that it responds and that this box moves itself up. So that is completely fine. If you find that, the coding is really easy and you really want to push yourself, then I suggest that you look ahead and see if you can find online some CSS that will make your divs all the same height. And it is there. There is CSS available. It will probably mean that you need to rename some of your selectors, and it's going to be some, some extra work for you to kind of, figure it out and work your way through. And I think that that's great if you choose to do that. However, for, people where this is your first HTML class, it's completely fine if you submit it this way. So I just want to let you know that. So let's go into Dreamweaver. Let's make sure everything is saved. Again, make sure you're doing a file save all related files, and you can close out that crew page because you are done, my friend. So good work on your crew page.